I invite you to breathe with me. One more time. Welcome to the Experience Podcast. I am a multi-dimensional being having a human experience. My name is Neil. In today's video, I want to talk about an experience that I had. And with this experience, it was an experience on a compound known as LSD, which is shortened from the original name, which is lysergic acid diethylamide. So I had an experience with that, and the experience was a super challenging experience for me in the aspect that it brought about feelings, and I brought about the feelings, but I used this LSD as a way to bring them about. And so I felt these feelings that were not necessarily the feelings that I want to feel now, or feelings that I want to feel in the future. So what is LSD? And I'll get some into that and give a little bit of a background with it. And so in 1938, the LSD was first synthesized by Albert Hofmann from the ergot fungus. And this ergot fungus grows primarily on wheat, but it also grows on other types of grains. And with that, the CIA did a project by the name of MK Ultra. And this MK Ultra name is a code name that's given to a Central Intelligence Agency. So it's part of the Central Intelligence Agency, this MK Ultra project was. And this was a program that began in the 1950s and in the 1960s. And it's sometimes been known as the CIA's mind control program. Throughout the years of Project MK Ultra, the CIA experimented with LSD and other substances on both volunteers and unwitting subjects. They believed that LSD could be used as a psychological weapon in the Cold War. Hypnosis, shock therapy, interrogation, and other dubious mind control techniques were also part of this MK Ultra project. So it continues talking about the LSD, and what it's saying is that these government LSD experiments, which involved dozens of universities, pharmaceutical companies, and medical facilities, took place throughout the 1950s and 1960s before LSD was deemed to be too unpredictable for use in the field. When Project MK Ultra became public knowledge in the 1970s, The scandal resulted in numerous lawsuits and a congressional investigation headed by Senator Frank Church. So that's kind of a brief background with this LSD compound. And so it's a relatively new compound, and there's quite a bit more known about it than there was, but still to this day, it's a very less than predictable compound. And this LSD it can have the effect of causing sensory differences, hallucinations. It can have the effect of causing hearing, either enhancement or differences in your hearing, and also visual, the way that you see things, the way that you see the world. It has the potential to alter that in the time that you're on it, and also the time after the use. So with that, I want to get directly into an experience that I had with approximately probably 200 micrograms of LSD, and that could very well have been 300 micrograms, but I feel like it was in a dose between 200 to 300 micrograms, and I ingested it in the form of a paper tab with the LSD drops on the paper tab, and that was the form of ingestion. Before we continue further in this video, I want to say that this video is for education, for harm reduction, and for entertainment purposes. So this was, I believe, on a Saturday, and I ingested the LSD tab, and before I had ingested this, I had kind of an intention to go somewhere to a forested area and to be out in nature and to be in a nature setting for this experience. And there were some individuals and some entities in my home at the time, and those individuals had so there was multiple energies coming from multiple individuals in the house. And so I ingested it, and I set the intention with one of the individuals to go and potentially go look for mushrooms. And as this experience began to come full on, I began to realize that for some reason, I did not feel comfortable leaving the house, even though I wasn't necessarily comfortable staying either. I definitely felt more comfortable staying than leaving, so that's what I chose to do, rather than going to a nature spot. So I was really feeling these effects. And another thing here too is the environment has an effect on your perception, and also I have certain types of music that I enjoy playing with 528 hertz, with 432 hertz, that feels amazing when you're on these, can feel amazing, and that's totally variable to the individual experience. But from my own experience, certain music, because of the vibration and frequency of the music, can enhance or dehance the experience. So there was another individual that was playing music, and that's important because there's certain types of music that I enjoy listening to, and then there's certain types of music that I do not enjoy listening to. And this particular music that was playing was a dubstep kind of music, which I do enjoy some dubstep. Usually it's a melodic dubstep if it is. But this particular one was not a music that I could resonate with. It was a music that was the way that I was feeling from the vibration and frequency coming from the music was some in part what began to have an effect on my psyche. And I was aware of this. I was super aware of this. And I began to have this effect on myself using music and compounds to do this. It was still all coming from within me, but environment plays a part in this entire experience. So this music was playing, and I began to have negative thoughts. There were some phrases in the music that brought about some of this. And what I began to feel is probably one of the most disconnected feelings from myself, the most disconnected feeling from divine source. I began to feel super disconnected and very, very individualized. And it was not a great feeling at all. You could explain it as a negative feeling, but it was a feeling that I do not want to feel again, but I am super grateful that I did feel it. And so with this music, it was what I began to notice was that, so I was laying on the couch at this time, and what I noticed was that this music was your consciousness kind of rides with music. At least I feel like mine does. With this music, that's exactly what was happening. It was kind of following the music, but this music would bring up these feelings of hate and bring up these feelings of anger within me. And it was not a good feeling, and then it would channel this into the music, and it felt like all of my energy was coming from an outside source, like the music was my source of energy. Rather, normally, or going about my day, my energy comes from inspiration, and it comes from within, and I feel inspired to do something because it's coming from within, and then it's going out. Well, the way this was feeling was that I was feeling from the outside in, and the inside felt disconnected. It felt cut off, it wasn't even there. There was no inspiration, and I was just feeling this energy from the music, and that was the energy that I was feeling. So when I realized this, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like, it felt like a hellish experience. And even in the dubstep music, it even commented the one time, like, welcome to hell. And when you're on these LSD substances, like simple phrases or even a single word can have a effect on your psyche, and it definitely has an effect, and it can lead to other thoughts or other negative thoughts or emotions or phrases, or so that's what I was feeling. And so I have this premonition and this pronoia that there's only one constant, and that constant is change. So I had this pronoia that obviously this feeling is not going to last forever. Like it's going to change. And that is what kind of allowed me to be somewhat sane through an insane experience. And also what I noticed with this like hell experience was like I felt trapped in my body, like I wasn't able to express, like I was just being suppressed, and a lot of this suppression was from music and from like not being able, like I felt like I was perceiving like I was not being able to express myself. And so I had my visual field was like, it was fractalized to where there were like diamond shapes, and it was like a grid overlaid my entire visual field. And so I would look at a wall, and there was visuals in front of the wall, and then I could still see the wall through it behind the visuals, and that was like everything I looked at. There was like this visual field, and then there was the thing that I was looking at behind it. So, and that was just, and it was like a super electric, like a digitized sort of visuals. Like, yes, they were diamonds, but they were also morphing and really not wavy, but more like straight lines, like digitized feeling, and visual actually, like, see, I had my eyes open and I was seeing this with my eyes open, like these visuals. So there was that. And then so as I was feeling this, I found this book, and I didn't even know what the book was at that time, but I knew that it had like some big pictures of crystals in it, and it had information about crystals, but it was a fairly small book, maybe 100, maybe 150 pages. So I began to page through this with the intention of basically creating eye candy for myself with these crystals, on these big pictures of these crystals, to absorb myself in the picture and to experience it. Well, I actually began to read the book, and I was reading this crystal book, and as I was reading it, I was having these visuals like across the pages of the book. Like I would read a sentence, and like I would just, these visuals were just morphing and being very digitized across the pages of what I was reading. But it was fascinating because I was still able to read even with the visuals. And so I just fully immersed myself in this book. And as I did that, I began to become more calm, but this music was playing in the background, and my consciousness was still riding the wave of that music as I was reading this book. And there was a point to where I turned the music like to a less of a volume so I could concentrate better on the reading, but it was still in the background, and I could still feel my consciousness kind of going with it. And it was just this feeling of hate and this feeling of anger and that I was feeling at that time. And so I was reading this book, and I was just continuing to read it. And there was an important point is there was a lot of noise and very little quietness. And that was an aspect of when I was feeling like disconnected, because there was so much noise. Like I didn't even know, like there was no quiet space for me to come from, to create from. There was just noise. So that had me feeling like trapped with this noise. It kind of like subdued or suppressed what I was trying to express. There was just so much noise, there was no room for expression. I was feeling like sort of super uncomfortable, and I noticed this aspect of like the sentences in my head were incomplete sentences, and like it was just a few words, and then it would stop with the music, and then like it wouldn't even make sense. So like trying to like elaborate it in my head, like the sentences were incomplete, so that had me feeling confused and uncomfortable. And that's kind of how this experience was. It was a very super challenging experience for me. And like so this was maybe around 10 to 3, 4 o'clock when I was feeling this way and reading that book. And around 5 or 6, some of these individuals left, and then I had that I was able to play my own music, and it's funny because like there was this part of me that could have played my own music at the whole time. But there was also this part of me that wanted to feel what I was feeling. And this sounds crazy, but like to feel it so that I can have a baseline of I don't want to feel that way ever again. And like, yes, I did feel like I'm feeling it. So like at the time I was feeling it then, but like there was an aspect of me that actually wanted to feel that so I could see how I don't want to feel. And so like after I was still feeling the LSD very much, and so like around 5, 6, then I was able to play my own music and kind of reflect on some of the things that I'd felt and some of the insights that I'd had, because there was now some quiet space for my being and for my essence to now create and to come through and to process the thing that I had just experienced and the feelings that I just experienced, and kind of reflect a little bit on earlier in the day. And at that point, I was feeling amazing, I was feeling relaxed, and I was feeling blissed. But like, there was a part of me that had this sense that if you feel those feelings for an extended period of time, those feelings are going to manifest real situations in your life. So there was an aspect that with those feelings that I definitely do not want to stay there. I can feel it, but I've got to let those go and choose to feel another way, a better way, a more loving way, a more compassionate way, a more peaceful way, a more connected way. And that was essentially the extent of my experience. And then I ate dinner, and then it continued to gradually wear off. So that was that experience. Stay blessed, stay multi-dimensional, continue experiencing.